It was a long wait until finally Wednesday afternoon was here. I would finally hear her speak again. I would finally see her, and I would be able to look at her. Of course, I need to look at her, because if I would not, then it would seem like I was not paying attention. Anyway, I was wondering what Miss Kamiyama's style would be, how she would structure the lesson, and how interesting it would all be. We gathered in the classroom where the philosophy lessons were to be held. There were not too many of us. This elective lesson was not too popular, and we had to have some people from other classes as well to be of reasonable count. Still, it made only for a mere 13 people, and there were 5 of us from our class. Not to mention that I was together with 2 other boys from 2D, the only boys in class. Philosophy just wasn't so popular, I guess. I did not have philosophy actually in my school. Compared to last year, some girls left, and from our class, Akari joined. There was no Mori, and that made me a little more free. I didn't have to be with him all the time. The lesson was just about to begin, and my anticipation grew stronger and stronger. I was not talking to anyone. I have already taken my seat and waited. I was shaking and started to breathe harder. However, I could disguise all this, so no one noticed anything. Miss Kamiyama, she should come soon. It was like an eternity, but I knew that at some point she had to come. And she was not late. I heard the open door being moved and panic struck me. This was it? I raised my head. Miss Kamiyama. There she was. She closed the door and greeted us. She was so beautiful, I had no words to describe it. My heart was racing and I felt so incredibly weak and shaken, I thought I wouldn't be able to hold a pen in my hand. Miss Kamiyama then put the papers she had on the teacher's desk. She sat on the desk and began to speak. Of course, this was such a torture for me, because her long legs came even more into focus. It was really quite normal to seek like that for anyone, but for me, I was already intoxicated by her presence. This meant something sexual, and I couldn't help myself looking at Miss Kamiyama that way. This first lesson, the thing happened that I have been wanting to happen all summer. I found out Miss Kamiyama's name. The first thing she did was introduce herself to us. She then wrote her full name on the board. Will you tell us? Ione Kamiyama? Ione, I would say. Okay, what a strange name, I thought. Ione. But at least I knew now. Ione Kamiyama. I have told that name to myself about 1,000 times that day. Ione. Was I entitled to think about her like that? Was it really okay for me to think of her as Ione instead of Miss Kamiyama? I didn't know, it felt so strange, but I knew that gradually I would get used to it. I was no longer the boy who did not think he was worthy of the girls he liked. Ione, I had to practice using that name in my mind. And the lesson was wonderful. We outlined all the things we would have to accomplish until the summer, one of which incorporated writing a work that would discuss a philosophical issue. We could write about the life of our favorite philosopher, or point out our developments in certain aspects of philosophy throughout the history. As for me, last year I compared 2 very different philosophers, both of which I liked. How about you write about Redux? You know, that would be good. I mean, come on, that would be good. You could say, what would happen if you had a Redux? And you could describe everything from your own experience. However, that might be a bad idea. There was no real conclusion, but even when they were very difficult, I liked them both. I then tried to fuse their philosophy together, and a very interesting result came out. Ione then advised us that we should pick the topic within a few weeks so that we could start gathering the materials. No one really took it too seriously though. I remember starting to work on my project last year with just a month before we had to deliver the project. After Redux, of course, the time was even shorter. Still, I don't think I didn't do well. My work was very interesting, I think. The first lesson with Ione, I was very quiet, opposed to really talk a give me that I had inside. But I didn't want to say anything wrong, and also I had to get used to Ione. There was absolutely no point for me to behave the way I did with Miori. That indecisiveness would get me nowhere. I would have to be me in the following discussions. I would have to overcome all my fears and try to focus on her as a real person. I had to do something if I wanted to succeed. I had to talk and I had to have courage. Luckily for me, I still had 1 week before the next lesson. But the atmosphere of the 13 people was so great. It was all so much different to a full classroom, much more relaxed. Ione, of course, knew my name now, because we introduced ourselves to at least the ones she didn't know from her previous classes. Ione, I watched her all the time. Naturally, seeing to it that I wasn't staring too obviously, you probably did. She was so beautiful, so wonderful, and I just wanted to know her better. From that one lesson, she seemed to be a nice person. This was my 3rd year at Mizumi Grounds then. I remembered it as the year of questioning. I know how to explain, but maybe our class has reached that certain point where we are discussing matters of life, love, happiness, and everything related on a daily basis. Many of us found great interest in reading books, famous authors. During the year we could discuss what we've read. Many times we decided to read the same book. Then we had so much to talk about. All this meant, of course, that we thought about everything around us. We thought about the thoughts in the books we read, and we thought about what our friends thought of that. I guess everyone found his or her meaning of all that, and that would have been good, but it seems that we were so consumed by this newfound vast area of feelings that many, if not all of us, started to act differently. I think we changed. During the course of this year, many of us became more deeply thinking. Many looked down on anything that had no real meaning, no idea behind it. And what the consequences was that we, I guess, became very disrespectful towards anyone who we didn't think was deep enough. I would have to say, the core of the group formed a sort of inner circle. Only the real, deep people. It was me, Rin, Suzy, and Tomomi. We would often debate about what we've read and how we felt about it. Others who didn't feel like reading at that time were automatically out. There was only one topic, anything that felt deeper to us. Many of our classmates couldn't keep up with our pace and gradually they gave up on trying to join our conversations. However, all this didn't happen that fast. It gradually developed over the whole school year, although it probably reached its peak in the winter because of the atmosphere. It really felt good. As for, we really were the deepest people in the class. And we didn't understand how the others could live without knowing all the things we discovered. There was so much to think about. There was nothing except Ione for me now. I hope I would meet her somewhere in the hallways. If I'd say hi, she would already know that it's me from the lessons on Wednesday. It was really hard to walk around the school on our breaks, and I was there with that wonderful feeling. It was hard not to share it with Mori, not to be able to share it with anyone. I was only thinking about her, nothing mattered anymore. Mori was commenting on the girls we met here and there as we were taking our walks, and since time has progressed, even when we met Kotone once, he didn't really have that angry look on his face. But little did I care about this. Kotone was now heir to me, as were any other girls. Really, any other girls. I said hello to Miori. I said it because we just met her in the main hall. Nothing it had no effect on me. Usually I would get weak. my heart would start beating faster, but nothing happened. Miori, it was over. Oh my goodness, he's so dumb. Well, exactly what was over? We never really had anything, but I felt now that I am free from Miori. That guy is pissing me off. She has been haunting me. She was my regret, but I guess it's all wore off now. I had Yone, who I was thinking about all the time now, and there was no place for Miori anymore. Yeah, because you only think and, well, you don't put your thoughts in action. So you basically you suck. Not even for Kotone, for no one else. What I now felt towards Yone was really helping me. Finally, I have found the true me. I wasn't going to adapt completely, I never could. Miori, I had no real interest in her, because she was a teenager, too young for me, still too girlish in her ways. Kotone, Yoshiko, Kumi, Nami, all were the same for me. When I saw how Yone moves, how she rides, how she sits down, those were graceful movements of a woman, natural for her and erotic for me. Some of the girls from our school could surely put on some makeup, dress appropriately, and they would look like Yone. But once they moved, once they started to talk, their body language was still that of girls. Such feminine aura as Yone had, they could probably only get with time. Of course, it was this very erotic side of Yone that attracted me towards her. I admit, yeah, I didn't know about her personality yet, but what could I do? I liked her and I wanted to get to know her. I did have that feeling that she might be someone I could like, but I didn't know yet. And that's why I was so much looking forward to Wednesday's discussions. Yone was letting us discuss the topic, of course, as every teacher does, and she was only directing the discussion. Still, I had to do that to her. I had to provoke some thoughts from her side, because I wanted to know what she thinks. I had to direct her attention to me, be it just for a few moments, but I had to make myself visible. This is such a cheap thing, one might say. But then again, what other means did I have? It was already half a miracle that I even got to meet Yone on Wednesdays, so I had to be thankful for every opportunity. What could I do aside from that? Could I think that perhaps I would meet Yone on the street again and she would talk to me and then I'd ask her out? Yeah. I really doubt you would ask her out. I doubt you would ask out any other girl you would be interested in, actually. That was stupid. I mean, Miori, Kotone. No action from you. In fact, I was extremely fortunate to have her as my teacher, as this was just about the only way I could be near her without being suspicious. And so yet another Wednesday came, and this time I did it. I acted more and more relaxed during her lessons. Whenever I needed to, I made a comment to simply make a statement. I didn't mean to steal the show from the other people, or make myself the star who knew everything. But every now and then I just said something like that to let everyone know I was the main man here. No one should take my place and they all should know it. That day Yone came in a very cheerful mood and that instantly jumped over onto me and I guess onto the whole class. While talking about different things, you could not really avoid saying something that couldn't be also understood with a sexual undertone. Especially the kids of 16 and 17, including me at the age, really used every opportunity to chuckle and smile whenever something like that was being said. Most teachers ignored it, some never even noticed it, but Yone, being a relatively young staff member, almost always responded, often returning the remark, which made it the more fun being with her. I really wondered whether this was the true Yone. I liked women who were funny, in fact. In my time here at Mizumi Grounds, I think I prefer the silent types. but I was really but I was rarely very funny, and I found that contrary to every my belief, I really was connecting with funny people, women with a sense of humor in particular. This time, the trigger was the philosopher's free marriages. But there was also something more than that, and I really succeeded in doing just what I wanted and needed to do. At the end of the lesson, Yone was talking about one aspect of the philosopher's beliefs and made a remark, almost to herself, as she smiled at it, and no one in class really got it. Of course, not that I wouldn't get it, but you would have to have a certain experience to understand it. This time, the experience were problems with the state administration. Yona's remark made me laugh, and just like that I commented on it with a funny remark about that kind of situation. Yona just shook her head with a smile and laughed at the situation I mentioned. But in fact, there were just two people in the classroom really communicating, because the others didn't get it, and Yona didn't have the time or even will to explain them that subtle undertone that what it meant. Yona and me. We were laughing at each other's jokes. And although this whole situation lasted for around 2 seconds at best, it was something so special for me, so important, that I hardly find words for it. This was it. This was the only way, or so I thought, to get to know this woman, to have a chance to talk to her, to give her 1 or 2 happy moments. It would be unfair, of course, to say I didn't look at Yone from the other side. As usual, she was once again dressed wonderfully. Sexy! And what was there to say? She was beautiful. I watched her hands, her legs, the way her lips moved when she spoke, and how her breast moved when she breathed. I still wasn't sure whether she had a boyfriend. Would that make a difference? I was really glad I didn't know at that time. It was almost scary for me to admit that there could be someone in her life. The lesson ended and just couldn't stop thinking about it as I made my way out of school. Now that I finally started to live again, now that I finally put all the bad things of the Redux behind me, I couldn't give up Yone. She was the reason I didn't break during the summer. By the time I saw her at the lights, after the party at Nami's place, I was just about to give up everything. I wasn't really able to hold it all anymore. Yone, the fact that I understood where I belonged, her person, my dreams about her have helped me to find back to myself. Without her, I would break, surrounded by that familiar world, but to still, even after almost a year, to feel alienated like that, and the emptiness getting stronger by that day as the summer began. Yone made it all go away. And no matter how I maybe tried to push away all of it, I think I was slowly falling in love. Yone's love heals me. Or it would be heal me. So far, I think it was only one-sided. But I felt that, maybe, if there were certain circumstances, luck maybe, because even from those few times during the lessons, I felt she's exactly the kind of person that she and I really believed I could make her happy. And I was almost certain, she would make me happy too.